Yesterday, we took a look at Homo Aqua with the long awaited TV series The War Between the Land and the Sea. The title is way too long, but I can't talk. Look at my channel name. We looked at the fact that the series opener was a step up because anything is better than Space Babies. Space Babies! We also looked at parts of what somewhat integrated, but not an integrated message. And now today we are going to review part 2, Plastic Apocalypse. Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters.
I crown you Queen of the Woke!
Let's chat about it. Please let me know what you think of Plastic Apocalypse in the comments section below. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you think of it? Please also do keep it friendly with each other in the chat, and it is okay for us to like something and not like something and all still be able to get along, I would hope. Plastic Apocalypse, excuse me, I'm not very good at saying that word, as if a title could not get any more literal, was written this time by Pete McTighe, who I think at this point takes over the writing from RTD altogether on this. This needs to be a clear distinction now. Pete McTighe is the puppet for RTD, but also he is inheriting a mess that he's somehow got to make somewhat good, okay? It continues from where we left off with the peace talks, and that is pretty much the entire synopsis for this particular part of the story. The Sea Devils are making their demands. Salt says she will talk with no one but Barclay. She asks for a drink of water from the Thames. She wants Barclay to drink it. He refuses to drink the water because, well, the contamination. We see unit scientists examining the eggs of Salt. One takes samples of the tissue and hands them over to his boss, which will most likely come back in later parts. And he's also granted his citizenship status. Maybe that is an indirect commentary on immigration and migration. The talks do not seem to be going anywhere. The Sea Devils make demands to no avail. Salt punishes the humans by clearing out the water with the Sea Devils from pollution and dumping it on the earth all over the world. Salt announces that the Sea Devils want control of the waters. By the way, I am saying Sea Devils because Homo Aqua is just ridiculous. The delegates are completely against it. Salt decides that Barclay will now meet her in the Romanche Trench in the ocean. Barclay agrees. And that was also the cliffhanger. Epic. So it looks like there are going to be more talks in the next part. Yeah. So a lot of discourse, and I agree that not everything needs action or anything like that, but there's an awful lot of discourse, an awful lot. Now, this part, Plastic Apocalypse, isn't great. There are bits in it that I like, but there's few and far in between. I am really struggling with this series, I think. I think humanizing Salt, who I will formulate a more better opinion of for the writing-wise, in my next review, was not the best way to go. The Sea Devils, even though I am not the biggest fan of them, always had a certain mystique. I also think that they are supposed to be intentionally visually different from humans. There's an implication that Salt and the Sea Devils are gender fluid, when in reality you never have been able to tell a Sea Devil apart from another Sea Devil. Much like with other fish, they all pretty much look exactly the same. You see this happen on screen. Salt has a rise in testosterone, so she visibly changes into a male and then back to female. I'm not 100% sure if this is implied, because as humans can also change their gender or sex. This is quite often a line that you hear with activists speak at the moment. They quite often go off on the fact that there are creatures in our world that can change their sex, so technically humans can as well, which we all know is not true. I wasn't too keen on that. I think the Sea Devils have been majorly undermined in this series. A total disservice has been done to them. Their purpose to exist on the planet without humans seems to have also been taken away, because whenever we see them, they come up to the surface and their main goal is to get their planet back. Now, I didn't mention this in yesterday's review, but I will now. In Homo Aqua, the story, not the Sea Devils, they have a unit sergeant that scoffs a lot about Barclay for being able to get into unit within minutes. She takes time to explain the purpose of the Sea Devils to him and the fact that they existed before the humans, much like the Doctor has done in the past. So essentially, she's serving the role of the Doctor, explaining it at this point. Now, I would have thought, although I should have paid more attention to the trailers now that I think about it, that it would have been the Sea Devils returning to the land and are open to the idea that they could live alongside humans, but they couldn't agree, so they had to fight. A bit like the old classics when the Sea Devils would come to land. Nope, nope, that's not happening. No, we've got much bigger fish to fry. The characterization of the Sea Devils seemed to have completely changed. They just want the control of the waters, and they seem to loathe the humans beyond agreement. They unleashed havoc on them instead by throwing plastic onto the street rather than using their, little instruments of guns like pew pew, like they normally would do, which doesn't make up part of the purpose of the Sea Devil. It was all very preachy. If I wanted a lecture about plastic, then I would have just watched a documentary. In fact, the BBC, as I said yesterday, should have just commissioned David Attenborough to do an animal documentary about how animals are affected by plastic and pollution. Now, I can say that they did integrate it into the story naturally. Pete did do that. Okay. Something that I always ask. I would rather that than stop the story for an ideology talking point. So, in that regard, it would be a minor improvement. However, it's extremely metatextual for a sci fi series, perhaps even more so than the main series. The world knows, and I'm talking in general now, that we have an issue with pollution and plastic. We do know that, and we are currently in the process of addressing it, but it's just going to take a long time. It's a fact, but does it need to be so literal in something that is considered to be escapism and entertainment? I don't think so. The story itself at the moment doesn't seem all that convoluted, but it's very problematic. However, I would suggest that this sort of story, if you're going to make this type of story where the biggest focus is extreme pollution, then it needs to be as far removed from being as close to home as much as possible. The best stories are often the ones where there are lots of metaphorical references, as opposed to the humans are idiots, like it was in this one, for polluting the planet. It's essentially been us being spoken down to. If you can think of a Doctor Who story that does metaphorical references to pollution and does it stylistically, let me know in the comments below. Now, the one that I find forgettable, but I remember enough to say it as an example, the Green Death, right? If you want to know why I find that forgettable, go and watch my review of it. I just don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. I will say that I do hope that after all the lecturing and them throwing the rubbish everywhere for the non-CGI shots, that they cleaned up absolutely everything and recycled it all accordingly and not gone and dumped it in the Thames. That's what I hope. And also, if it is very blatant, then people will start switching off. But more on the ratings tomorrow, because that one's interesting. I also think that this will date it. Plus, there are other things that they will do. They do in this that also date it. They use real news readers. Meta. There's references to said coof. This is also a Doctor Who spin-off, but it does not feel remotely like it is in the world of Doctor Who. The stark contrast between the two is absolutely unbelievable. The only connection that we have is Unit and Kate Lethbridge Stewart, who I think at this point needs to be written out. She, uh, this is nothing. This is absolutely nothing to do with Gemma Redgrave. The writing for her when she first came in was really good. She came in under Stephen Moffat, I think it was. Was it Stephen Moffat? Oh my goodness, I can't remember now off the top of my head. But as time has gone on, her character has become more sort of mundane and a bit more drawn out and not as interesting as she was. I think the spin-offs work better, though, I will say this, when we know the companion. Kate's father, the Brig, good old Brig, was a companion for the Doctor. Sarah Jane Smith was also a companion, and from what I saw from her spin-off, which obviously was a spin-off for young children, that worked. Captain Jack was also the Doctor's companion, and from the little I have seen of Torchwood, it did work very well. And I know a lot of people have a lot of praise for Torchwood. Also, the crossover characters didn't change in appearance. Here they have, you know. There's more. The more I think about it, the more I find issues with it. I'm glad that I haven't gone and done a debate yet on this series. I would still be debating if I did. The amount of talking in this as well. There's always discourse in Doctor Who. However, we should have seen the rage of the Sea Devils much earlier and the demands being made for the control of the waters earlier too. It came all too late, and part of that is Russell T Davies' fault, because he had this long drawn out first part. So Pete's now got to pick up from there and somehow find a way to try and bring in that rage a lot sooner. They introduced RTD introduced Salt too late as well. Salt should have been introduced earlier. Get it moving along, even with the discourse, quite at a steady pace. I won't deny, though, that I am intrigued as to why the Sea Devils want specific control over the waters and not actually following in with their normal plot devices, and why those samples were taken but not enough to watch it immediately, I would say. I honestly think that my most favourite bit in this part so far was when the military mission went out to go and get a drink of water. They have this it's just, I think it was a bit silly, to be honest. Maybe it was Pete's way of making a joke, but a military mission to go and get a glass of water from the Thames for Berkeley to drink. Now that I think about it, though, the Thames and the waters would have long since been contaminated before the creation of plastic and the discovery of oils and fossil fuels. There are natural harmful things, talking in code, in that water already before pollution took a great big hold that we have now. That's why in history we have talk of beer and the fact that they drink alcohol as a choice beverage. People knew even then not to drink the water because of contamination. So it almost seems senseless in that way. Anyway, I've kept this short because I've got a comment that's slightly longer, and I'm sure I will get into more talks about the political messaging that we've got as the series goes on, and I will probably draw in more details. But I've got a comment that I think needs to be read out. This is from Carl Ace. My review of the first 2 episodes, RTD's obsession with woke propaganda reaches a horrific crescendo. And I would say, even with regards to what I said, I understand where this, where Carl is coming from with that. It's continuing on. I don't know if it's a horrific crescendo, but it's definitely continuing on. I know I had praise for the more natural integration, but he still found a way to do it. And obviously the political commentary is something else. It's another level here. Every time a new character appears on screen, the pathetic game of what are they begins. Are they LGBT? Are they non-white? I don't think we had the "Are they non-white?" go on. Oh, I can't remember now. Are they antagonistic towards white Christian British men? Are they handicapped? Every character presented by RTD fits one of these categories, and in some cases, they are all four. RTD's bigotry is on full display and colours every character in this miniseries and every decision he makes. The fact that the main character, Barclay, has a minority trans child pretty much says it all. The fact that Barclay's masculine ex-wife actually gets an opportunity to berate and insult him on screen is one of the purest examples of RTD's innate heterophobia. Okay, I'll come back to that in a minute. It's a story about sea devils written by RTD, so naturally it is all far left propaganda. After watching just the first 2 episodes, you get the distinct feeling that Disney definitely made the right decision to end the association with RTD and should be applauded for their business savvy, I would say. I agree. The War Between the Land and the Sea is a woke dumpster fire with some impressive Disney money special effects, and yes, that is me being kind. Actually, it was reasonably constructive, I think. I didn't think Barclay's ex-wife was all that buff, to be honest with you. But I agree that I don't think that the beration was needed, especially when they state that the separation was an amicable separation and they still appeared to be friends. So it didn't really make all that much sense for her to do that, sorry. And I think that it was, in that sense, a good idea for Pete McTighe to take over from RTD, because yesterday's with the homo aqua gay water joke, that in my opinion it wasn't really needed or anything like that, and I don't think RTD writes straight characters particularly well, whereas Pete McTighe is a bit more consistent in his writing with regards to how he writes straight people and how he writes gay people and all of that. I think he's consistently better in that regard. So in that sense, yes. And yes, Disney were 100% correct to pull out. I don't think that this would have been the deal breaker per se. I think they would have been more impressed with this than they were Space Babies. Space Babies really did the done deal for them. Anyway, continuing on, Ian Dolby says, I left it when a similar scene from the Star Beast came up talking about he, she's, and the whole damn caboodle. But no, Rachel, I will not be nice. And if Russell came to my door, I would show him how I felt the wisdom of 58 years is that my mouth has a no-stop mechanism. I guess you never made it to the plastic apocalypse then. Oh, and, and overall, I do actually mean when I say that, just with each other, because it does get very heated. If you have a piece to say to Russell T Davies, that's up to you. And if he ever does turn up to your door and you do say it, please do let me know what you say, because I would get you on to talk about it. I would say that you really didn't miss much, though, if you didn't watch the second bit, just a lesson on pollution. And Grant Mason says nearly 800,000 stopped watching after episode 1. They can't be wrong. And of course, naturally, that will be tomorrow's video. Please do let me know what you think about it in the comments section below. Check out some of the other content I have picked out for you. We will do the ratings tomorrow because that's always good fun. Chat about it, don't shout about it. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching today. Don't forget you can join me on my other platforms as well. I've got YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, TikTok, Instagram, Locals, Substack, and I also have a Discord. Everything is linked below.